Welcome to DARTEP and the Professional Practices presentation. My name is Stephanie Whiteside, and I am the staff consultant for Professional Practices. And it's been quite a long time since I've been at DARTEP and presenting on professional practices. And what I've put together is the pieces I think are relevant to your role as a certification officer. Please feel free to take a lot of notes. I do informal, so if you have a question, go ahead and ask it and we can address it. More times than not, your question is not unique. Unfortunately, someone else probably has that same question. When, as a cert officer, someone enters your program and they have a conviction or a civil infraction, on your application into the program, you need to ask that. What we encourage is that you pull those same questions that are on the MOAX app. Use the same wording as on the MOAX app. And if they check on there or respond that they have a conviction or an infraction, I would suggest to you at that particular time that you ask them for the register of action. Okay. The reason we do that is because then you're not trying to scramble with them, trying to get it when they're ready to be recommended. Okay. The districts tend to use, as part of their employment, the conviction disclosure form that I've included. The conviction disclosure form allows that student to tell you they don't have any convictions or infractions, or they do. If they do, what are they? You as a cert officer need to know that on the front end. It can be used more than once. So say I enter your program at the beginning and I'm in, I don't have any convictions. Well, midway through, I get an MIP and you haven't asked me anymore. So don't ask, don't tell. Most students are not going to run to you because now they're a little afraid. Yes?
So this is at the beginning to get into the program.
When they're accepted into your education program.
Our institution also makes them do an application for student teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So this probably should be put back on that too in case something happens.
Between when they came in and student teaching, correct. And it's not to scare them, but you would want to, at the beginning, you need to hold that conversation, whether it's a general conversation in coming into the program, or working with those that have turned in those sheets. And they need to understand that's going to follow them. It doesn't go away. So they need to let you know up front so that you know how to advise. They also need to be made aware that I know there's at least one institution, they give you one freebie. Second one, doesn't matter when it happens in the program, have a good day. They need to be made aware of that. Okay. There are some institutions that they haven't had students yet that come through. They're lucky. There are some institutions that they come in and they have an MIP or they have something that you look at and you go, oh, it's not going to be a big deal. Let me share with you, please don't do that. Because when you do, put that inference out there that it's not a big deal, it'll still go through. And then they get a letter from us saying, you know, we're getting ready to deny you, you can request a hearing. Because what you're telling them, they're looking at as this is the university standard. This is the program standard. And they take that and they run with it. It would be like if you called me and asked me a question, if I didn't say, in my opinion, you're going to take that as that's what the state's saying, right? And it just might be, it's a Tuesday and Stephanie ain't feeling it. But if I don't say that, you're going to say, when I talk to Stephanie, and she's, you know, the consultant for this, A, B, and C. So really watch what you say and make them aware that even if they get through your program with this conviction, if in the midst of that our laws and rules change, we're governed by what's in place when you submit that app and it's accepted in the MOAX. So it's a little bit more than just pressing the button. If your individual has been substitute teaching and they have the conviction, let's just say it's an assault case, bar fight, they're a freshman, they weren't the brightest, they got a conviction, okay? And they say, but I've been subbing, so I got a permit to sub. Your inference is not, oh, well, then there shouldn't be a problem. Your response is, you may have been approved for a permit, but the permit is not yours. The permit belongs to the district. They have no property right to a permit. And trust me, if that offense is enumerated, there's a notation in MOAX that I put there that says this was for permit only. If they're seeking certification, they will have to participate in a compliance conference. In the compliance conference, the outcome may be that they do not get certification. So you need to make sure your students know that enumerateds generate a compliance conference. So if it's an enumerated offense, it's going to generate a compliance conference. Will they get certification? Don't know. Because I don't go into those compliance conferences with preconceived notions. Every single case is on its own merit. There are situations where you may have two people with an assault and battery conviction at the same exact time. Their circumstances are 100% different. One may end up with a conditional agreement that includes ineligibility to apply for certification for X amount of time. Another one may be a conditional agreement that says you go to counseling, you handle A, B, and C, quarterly reports, performance evaluations, and you complete all of that and you have your certificate while that's happening. So there's all kinds of circumstances that you need to be aware of. Now, yes?
Clarifying question. So for enumerated convictions, you have a compliance conference, and this is where you actually speak with the applicant,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other time when you speak with the applicant?
Yes. You want me to tell you, don't you? The question was, when do we speak directly with the applicant? Compliance conferences are held via the telephone, and we speak with them then. There's also compliance conferences held for omission of fact. And an omission of fact A material misrepresentation, what that means, for example, if we have an individual that is substitute teaching, they have a permit, they've disclosed they have a conviction, on their application to you, they say no. You put it on through. It gets to us, and it's an automatic conviction review because we already have them in the system and have court records. So they will receive a letter from us stating that they are scheduled for a compliance conference for omission of fact. And a certificate can be actionable. We can deny an application. We can suspend an application, conditional agreements. So it's I think in the last maybe 18 months, 2 years, I think the education community is learning, because I've held so many of them. They go through those applications. Certificates all expire June 30th. So 28th, they're scrambling and just, no. Really? No. So then they get a letter. Number one, omission of fact. Well, I was in a hurry. That doesn't cut it. And they figure that out when we have a telephone conversation, and it's put on their MOACs. If we take no action, trust me, it's on their cert file. And basically, that's your freebie. Not all of them get freebies. So if you get a freebie, you count yourself blessed. Sometimes an applicant will bring to you, I've already had my fingerprints run, or the unit for student teaching. Herein lies the problem. Student teaching, fingerprinting, or criminal history check, which includes fingerprinting, is not under the SE index. Okay? It's under the WASH Act. It is not usable for employment in a Michigan K-12. So, yes, they're going to be reprinted. Yes, we know it's the same hand. Yes, we know it's the same prints. But under school employment, it connects us to the wrap back. The wrap back is generated from the LEAN, which is the Law Enforcement Information Network. So, I'm a principal, I have a live scan, it's under SE. I get arrested, state gets a wrap back. You've been arrested. I'm arraigned on, let's just say, DUI charges. State gets a wrap back from the state police that says this individual has been arraigned on DUI charges. You're convicted. Convicted, you take a plea, you plead no contest, and then the state gets another wrap back. So we don't get any of that with prints run under the WASH Act. And I don't know if you all are aware, but there was new legislation for child care under the Michigan Administrative Hearing System. They have to undergo fingerprinting, which is different from ours. And if an individual, let's just say they're employed in a K-12 as a teacher, and they also work in child care for whatever reason, they'll have to have two sets of prints run. Run under the MISE and one under MDE. And we do get the argument that it's same print. You need to talk to your legislators. Okay. When someone tells you that an infraction If you notice, the question says excluding speeding tickets. We are finding a lot of people really aren't reading that, and they're giving us information on speeding tickets. Believe it or not, that delays the processing of their application, because if you are submitting, you're responding yes, now it sits because of everything that I do with my job. I'm not doing apps every day. I'm not reviewing apps every day for approval. So now it sits. And as evidenced by this past week, it sits for a long time. So if you have a speeding ticket, and you tell your applicants, if it is a speeding ticket, not impeding traffic, not disobeyed a traffic signal, not improper lane change, not changing a lane under the traffic signal, if it says speeding, then you don't respond yes. If they accidentally respond yes, the applicant will go in and hit delete, delete, delete. That does not work. The applicant will call you. I put this in there and I just figured out it was a speeding ticket. Okay, what I need from you is the register of action. Why? Because as beautiful as your students are, you need supporting documentation. Now, that being said, if you're not paying attention and you hit the button and it comes to MDE, now you're going to shoot me an email that says, oh, this wasn't supposed to go through, it's a speeding ticket. And I'm going to grimace, and I'm going to tell you that I need from the student an email signed and dated that they made an error and a copy of the register of action. As beautiful as the CERT offices are, I need supporting documentation before I remove that conviction flag. Okay? So slow down a little bit. Look at the application. If a student comes to you and says, well, yeah, I had a conviction, but I don't have that anymore. Okay, where did it go? Well, I paid my fine. I'm finished with all that. It's not on my record. Every red flag you have should be going up. Nothing drops off without a court action. Completing probation, successfully being discharged from probation, does not take it off the record. Okay? If you are really not sure, look at your register of action. Every page of your register of action, because the register of action is a court document that is generated when that particular incident becomes a case. You can follow every single action on a register of action. And if the charges are dismissed, it's on the register of action. If the case is dismissed, if any action that will remove that from their criminal history will be on the register of action. Someone will come to you and say, well, I didn't go to court. I just, I sent in ticket, paid a fine. Okay. There's still a register of action because the court can't take money without it being assigned to something, which would be a court case. You cannot walk into the court and say, here's $110. That should take care of my fine. And that individual says, oh, okay, no problem. And you walk away. Really? Because now they going shopping. There's no record of your money. And you gave them cash. There's no record of your money. Receipt. Who did you pay it to? What court? It's all there. If someone says, and they will proudly say it, I had that expunged. Okay. They will proudly say it because to get something expunged starts at about $800 to $900. They have to have an attorney. The attorney files the motion to set aside the conviction. The court will send the application to the prosecuting attorney in the county to the county of where the conviction took place, and they will also send it to the state attorney general's office. Both of those offices have to sign off, and then ultimately it is the judge's decision. So if someone had their case set aside or their conviction set aside, they're coming with paperwork. If they don't, then your response is specifically, I will need the supporting documents. I will need the documents that support your statement that this was set aside. You do not ask them, did you have this set aside? Because that's illegal. So you word it that what you need in order to submit the MOEX app is supporting documentation for their statement that it was expunged. Okay. There's another little piece, adjudication withheld. You'll see that mostly from Florida. That means that Florida basically made them jump through all the hoops. And most times it's going to be someone that was down there for spring break. They got a little inebriated and they said, okay, we're going to have you for half a day wear this orange jumpsuit, pick up trash, and all your friends can look and laugh at you, and then you're good. Oh, by the way, give us the $50, and this won't be on your record. So what will happen is they will give you that full-bodied explanation. And again, documentation. And Florida's will say adjudication withheld.
So in that case, with adjudication withheld, are they saying yes or no?
Most of the time they're confused and they'll say, I had to do A, B, and C, but it wasn't on my record. When you get the documentation and it says adjudication withheld, they can respond no. Okay. When you get those type cases, adjudication withheld, conviction set aside, case dismissed, no prosecution, send me those court records anyway. You still respond no, but send me the court records so we can make the notation. Because in the event, let's just say you find this out after you've hit the button and we go in and remove the conviction flag, if that applicant, say they get an additional endorsement and they hit the button and you aren't really paying attention and you hit the button, you just put the flag back. Okay. So, case dismissed, adjudication withheld, case set aside, no prosecution, they can respond no. Oh, and if they had it pardoned, I had one pardoned by the governor and one pardoned by the President of the United States. I was like, whoa, let's frame these. But they can respond no. Okay. Criminal history checks. Everybody working in a Michigan K-12 has to undergo a criminal history check under the School Employment Index. Now, those that are changing careers, okay? You have someone that maybe is looking at getting an administrator certificate. Someone that taught 20 years ago for, I don't know, 2 years, and then some other career called them, they've retired, and now they want to go back. It doesn't matter your security clearance, you have to undergo a criminal history check. Okay? Doesn't matter if you were the top dog with Michigan State Police. It doesn't matter if you were the prosecuting attorney for the county. It does not matter if you were the President of the United States. Michigan K-12, you're employed, you undergo a criminal history check. You may have someone that says, I just retired in June and it's October. I'm looking at getting an endorsement so I can teach. And do you know if I'm going to have to undergo a criminal history check? Yes, you are. Okay. And these may not have anything directly to do with you as a CERT officer, but they're going to ask because they're at your institution and you're the CERT officer. So, yes, there was a separation of service. Yes. And the key is with a K-12, if you retire, you are out, you have to be out 30 days before you can come back. So they're always going to have to undergo a criminal history check. Do you have any questions? We ticking everything? One of the things that I did provide you with is an actual hard copy. I provided the legislation, but when you're reading the legislation, if you don't do it all the time, you're just looking at penal codes going, seriously? What is that? Where do I find it? That it's in layman's terms. So we have this. Now, there are two different things going on here. Let me share. The application for certification says any civil infraction, misdemeanor, or felony. Okay? Legislation 1535A. If a person holds a teaching certificate that is valid in this state, has been convicted of a crime that's enumerated in this statute. Now, you notice the difference? Did you pick up on the difference? The application says, have you ever accepted responsibility in a civil infraction, excluding speeding tickets, or been convicted of or pled no contest to a misdemeanor or a felony? Okay, we see how that reads? Now, the statute says if a person who holds a teaching certificate that is valid in this state has been convicted of a crime described in this subsection, they're different and yet the same. Okay? Because you may have someone tell you, well, I don't have to report that to my district. I didn't have to report that. Let's say it's first or second DUI. I don't have to report that. I love this. My attorney said that it's not reportable. I don't have to report that. You do on the MOEX app. You won't get from us a letter stating you have an opportunity to request a hearing because you were convicted of an enumerated misdemeanor, because first and second DUIs are not enumerated. Okay? They always get mixed up when they go to attorneys. Go figure. And sometimes the attorneys are confused. Okay? But that's why this is so important. The second page are the listed offenses. If they're convicted of any of the listed offenses, they can't get certification. You may wish to go back and look at what governs your program, because if they are convicted of a listed offense, we aren't going to certify them, and they can't get employment in a Michigan K-12 public or non-public. The enumerateds, the first half, they would get a letter from the department stating that they have the opportunity to request a hearing on the matter. They have 15 working days from receipt of the letter to request a hearing. If they don't, that certificate is suspended. Okay. The second piece, the second half, that means that we're going to summarily suspend that teaching certificate, administrator certificate, school psychologist certificate. We're going to summarily suspend it, but they still have the right to request a hearing, first on the summary suspension and then on the offense. I don't think you're going to have a lot of these because most of these are in prison, but then again, you might. You never know. One offense that sticks out for me is the selling and furnishing of alcohol to a minor, because more times than not, someone convicted of that, they worked at a convenience store, they didn't card. Now, every now and again, we get the ones where they had the graduation party, blah, blah, blah. It's enumerated. They are in serious jeopardy of losing their certificate. Losing a certificate can be a suspension, it can be a revocation, it could be a conditional agreement with basic provisions, or it could be a suspension within a conditional agreement. Oh, yeah, we're rolling. Do you have any questions? Ask often. Ask at the beginning of the entrance into your program. Put it on your application. Okay? Have the conversation. I would rather know on the front end that I'm going to have some problems jumping through your hoops than you wait until it's time for student teaching and now you're going to tell me these things, but you already knew them. And it's going to be a difficult conversation, yes.
So just for clarification,
Mm-hmm.
there's no expiration date on
No.
conviction. So
Correct.
if you're a career changer 20 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
you
still have to
had
get,
possessed a controlled substance.
yep.
It's still,
We still going to look at it. It may, 20 years ago, you're going to have a lot more supporting documents that you're going to provide. When we send the second letter scheduling the compliance conference, we tell them, you are strongly encouraged to provide service awards, reference letters from people who knew what happened then and now. Okay, your character reference. Don't send me to whom it may concern, blah, blah, blah. They'd be great for your job. They don't know you. Okay? Because, see, I don't know you from Adam. And I don't go in with preconceived ideas. So I've got everything in black and white. I got a police report. I got court documents. In the police report or witness statements, I got everything right here that I can make a firm recommendation. So you need to show me who you are. Okay? And if someone tells you, well, that was 25, 30 years ago, the courts don't, well, if the court no longer has that documentation, then the court will provide that on their letterhead, that they don't have that record. But you see, the courts, they're so cute. They don't want to go in the basement. You know, in your basement, that box is way over there that you know you need to go through. And you down there at least a couple times a week because you're doing laundry, right? And out of the corner of your eye, you look at that box here, not today. That's the courts. They don't throw away alcohol-related documents. At the very least, there is a court docket. It may be on an index card, but it has your information. Okay? We've had 1 or 2 courts that caught fire, and I think 1 or 2 that flooded. Yes.
I have a situation where a student said they were in a room, in a dorm room where alcohol was being served, everyone got citations.
Mm-hmm.
He called and called and called, talked to people, no one can find anything. The court sent me something. We don't have a record of this.
Okay. So if they all got citations, which means he had an infraction, he knows about what year it was,
Yep,
then we do self-disclosure with a copy of the letter from the court.
Okay, so how would he answer no?
He'd answer yes.
Okay.
It didn't go away just because they don't have a record,
Exactly.
you know. And you may have somebody that tells you, you know, A, B, and C happened. And then you go to iChat and don't see a thing. Well, you better check yes, because you err on the side of them disclosing. You always err on this. It may not be in iChat, okay? And they may tell you it didn't come up on, you know, when I had my criminal history record done. No, because those databases rely on somebody putting it in, and as we can see, this week wasn't nothing put in. Well, one day, you know, but you err on the side of that student. If that student is telling you, yeah, we got so drunk we didn't even realize we had crossed the state line, you know, and you pull it up and it's like, well, there's nothing there, check no. Really? Because we gonna get it. And they're going to, and they'll know your whole name. No, I talked to Lindsay Smith. She was a certification officer. And then I'm going to get in touch with you. You know, I remember that, but it wasn't a See, it's more than just you hitting the button, because now they're in jeopardy of not being certified because we have material misrepresentation.
And after I would recommend him, send in
You'd fax so, yep.
the stuff
And I will tell you, the register of action, if someone says, well, I couldn't get that, yeah, okay. I don't remember, okay, when did it happen? Oh, man, that must have been when I was in college. When were you in college? Oh, man, that was like 88. Okay. What city were you in? Oh, we were in Mount Pleasant. Right. Mount Pleasant District Court. Bingo. Every case starts in district court. Every city has at least one district court. If that district court is automated and they can pull that register of action off online, that's fine, because we don't ask for it to be certified anyway. If I need something certified, I go directly to the court. Okay? So the records are there. They may have to do a little shimmying to get them, but that's why you tell them on the front end. Because now we're not looking at, oh, they're ready for you, you know, I need this, I got a job waiting for me. I don't have your documents. So get them on the front end. So are we feeling pretty good about court records? Comfortable? Yes.
For out of
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes students are traveling, spring break, maybe not Florida, and
Mm-hmm.
they don't know what court to contact. And
The
I'm
city.
wondering, is there,
Start in the city.
okay,
Start in the
I
city.
should know at least what city they were.
Well, unless they were that, yeah. I would hope so. But if they don't know where, what time, this was like 30 years ago when I was a freshman. Okay, let's break it down. What city were you in? Okay, they're going to have to do some legwork if they didn't keep a copy of their records. And we are not, if you can give me a discharge from probation, it's going to have the information I need. If you can give me an order of probation, it's going to have the information that I need. The register of actions, more detailed, I'll take that. I'll take a judgment of sentence. I will take a Secretary of State document that shows that'll say right in the first paragraph that in fact you were convicted on this day of. So we're pretty lenient about what we will and will not accept. Okay, let's look at this is where everybody gets a chance. Because see, we've just discussed all of this. So you have a packet of court records. Do we have those? Good. So this should be like a quick run through because we just discussed this, right? So the question is, sample number 1, conviction. Okay, by show of hands. Conviction? Yes? No? Still reading, unsure? Okay, it is a conviction. What are they convicted of? What offense? What were they convicted of? I can't hear you. Alcohol, operating while impaired. Do you see that? The reason it's not alcohol operating while intoxicated, because that was the initial charge, but they amended it. Okay? Civil infraction, misdemeanor, or felony. How do you know?
Because they didn't accept responsibility, which is what a civil infraction would be. They pled guilty.
Okay?
And that's a misdemeanor charge rather than a felony charge.
I asked about the conviction, not the charge.
Uh-oh.
Misdemeanor or felony. There's a real quick way to find out. If you look just above alcohol operating while impaired, see where it says count 1? See where the initials are there, CMF? Space over, there's an M. M is for misdemeanor. If it were a felony, there would be an F there. If it were a civil infraction, there would be a C there.
Define what civil infraction.
Civil infractions, typically, some of them are ordinances. They just don't rise in the penal code to the level. So you can have a civil infraction that involves alcohol. You can have urinating in public. Those are my favorites. Usually after a football game. Or before, but it's that day. Drinking in public, jaywalking, things like that. Those are civil infractions. Not shoveling, failing to buy a dog license, animal license, yes. But again, we don't care. All we care about is, was it an infraction, a misdemeanor, or a felony? Don't get caught up in, oh, that was an ordinance violation, but there's an M there. It's still an ordinance violation at the misdemeanor level because that's how the courts adjudicated it. Okay? Don't get caught on, oh, I had someone say, oh, well, it's a misdemeanor. How do you know? District court. They all start in district court. Everything starts in district court. Michigan, if I'm not mistaken, has one maybe city that has a municipal court. We have district courts and we have circuit courts. Circuit courts are felonies. Okay? They start in district court, they take all their evidence, and the judge says it's enough evidence to bound it over, and it'll go to circuit if it's at that level. Okay? Are we comfortable with that one? Are you comfortable? Just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. Okay? Now, look at the last page of sample 1. It has page 5 at the top. I'm your student, and I come to you with this document. And I say, completed everything, it's off my record. Your response is, what is your response?
The case is closed, but it's not off your record.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay? Sample 2. What were they convicted of?
Operating while intoxicated.
Y'all sure? Okay, they were convicted of operating while intoxicated. Is this when they would get you the court records? You're applying through MOAX. You're going to recommend them. Do you need court records for this? Why is that? Because it's a conviction. There may be tricks in here. Okay? Sample 3. What are they convicted of? Let's back up. Do they have a conviction? Read the top.
Yes.
Do they have a conviction? I'm bringing you this document. I don't have a court record. I don't have a conviction for delivering, manufacturing, controlled substance, narcotics less than 50 grams. I hand this to you, and I say, I don't have a conviction. As you can see here, it's set aside. Why is it still a conviction? You just can't say it's still a conviction.
It doesn't go away. I mean, yeah,
This
might
is
have
setting aside my conviction. This is taking my conviction off of my record. I have given you this and said I don't have a record. The consensus here is yes, you do. Why do I have a record if you're saying that?
No one wants to know everything about it.
Mm-mm. I have given you this document. I have said I no longer have a conviction. This says set aside conviction, which means expungement. Okay? What are you going to tell me?
This is an application. to
Thank
set
you.
aside-
Thank you. Did we hear this? This is an application. I have a conviction. The same conviction. This is just an application. Nowhere on here is it signed saying, I don't have a conviction. So you'll have to tell them that you need the other part of this. Okay? Sample 4. What was I convicted of? I'm bringing this to you. What was I convicted of?
failure to yield.
Okay? It was said the conviction is for failure to yield. How do you know that?
are we getting this after? Because there's a court date on here. So, it may not be a conviction because it's just a ticket. Right?
First of all, I bring this to you. What do you do with it? Thank you. Hello. This is a ticket. We don't accept tickets. You don't fax Stephanie a ticket. Stephanie will put that application on hold so quick it'll make your head spin. We don't, and the reason why we don't accept tickets is because this is not the end-all be-all of this case. We have no idea if they went to court, or say it's a civil infraction, and they send it in with explanation, they give you this, you record that, it's an infraction, but then the court dismisses the case. So, no. Or this is what the ticket was written for, but between the city attorney and their attorney, it's something totally different. Okay? Or it could have started out as this and ended up being a misdemeanor. So, no, we don't accept tickets. Okay, sample 5. What were they convicted of? Were they? What were they convicted of?
Dismissed by part.
Do I have a conviction? Mm-hmm. Do I have a conviction?
Under findings, it says dismissed by party.
Right, so they don't have a conviction. Even though they were sentenced very possibly under a diversion program, which means the court says you do A, B, and C, and no more convictions or infractions for this period of time, then you come back and we'll take it off your record. Okay? Or we'll actually enter it into your record because it's on hold.
We see encountered those same situations with students got conviction at a younger age, and they said, keep your record clean for 5 years, we'll take this off your case.
Mm-hmm.
It's their understanding that it was expunged. They
Right.
think it happens automatically.
No, and it doesn't. Unless it's in, that's a good comment, that nothing happens automatically. In order for it to drop off, as their vernacular, it has to be in the order of probation. So, under diversion program, Spousal Abuse Act, HYTA, there's one for the drug house thing. So if they are pleading sobriety court, your lawyer and my lawyer got together and we said, we will sentence you under these provisions. Any probation violations, any bad drops, anything. And now we're going to enter your conviction onto the record. Okay? If it says dismissed by party or nolo pros, there's no case. Most folk will tell you, no, there's no case, look right here. But you get that one every now and again. They go, they don't know if they were convicted. So we just roll with it. Okay? Sample 6. Conviction. Is this a conviction? Look at the 3 letters. The letter's a C. It's a civil infraction. As someone said earlier, if you look at the plea, admit responsibility, you'll have found responsible, found responsible with explanation. Those typically are flags for civil infraction. Okay. Would they have to give you the court records for you to recommend them?
Yes.
Would you forward those to us? Okay. Sample 7. What are they convicted of? I can see it. You see it? So what do you do? Right. If you get a copy and it's really old and it's got wrinkles in it, please take a minute to photocopy it on lighter, because I get this in a fax and I can't read it. It's an old copy. Why don't you either see if they can get a cleaner copy before you submit it to us? Because when I get this, it's going on hold and sit in my whole tray. Okay? You'd be surprised the people when I hold the training sessions for other groups, and they spend time trying to read this. And they're like, well, it says, well, I think, okay, if you have to think, no. And the second page is even worse. Okay? Sample 8, what were they convicted of?
Set aside.
So they have no conviction. How does this differ from the application?
This is an order.
Approved.
It's an order. Who is it signed by?
Judge.
What box is checked?
Conviction number 8.
Exactly. When someone gives you like an order of probation or discharge from probation, you look all the way down to the bottom. There's wording very similar to that on the set aside that says this is now a non-public record. Non-public record, translation, you do not have to check yes. Okay? Juvenile court is not a conviction. Be very careful. Because somebody committed a crime at 16 does not mean it is a juvenile adjudication, because it could have been tried in district court. Okay? A juvenile adjudication is in family court or probate court. If you're not sure if it's a public record, call that court and say, I need to find out. We have this gentleman, he's applying for certification. I'm with Western Michigan University. And they will say, what's his name, date of birth? Your question is there a public record? Okay? Even if you don't ask that, they're going to say to you, we don't have a public record. Translation, they can check no. They probably have already told you their whole life story. So it just rolls right up into a nice little bundle, and they respond no. Please, when you're talking with your students, if they are able or eligible to check no, let them know if they go back in after we've removed the flag, it's going to pop up. If the conviction is for a felony, Tiger tidbit, in order for them to be employed in a Michigan K-12 school, the superintendent and the school board have to meet in a public meeting and put in writing that they are agreeing to hire or continue their employment. Doesn't matter how old the felony is. So you get someone changing career, they're applying for a principal position. They had a 35-year-old felony. Tiger tidbit. School board and the superintendent have to agree in writing in a public meeting to hire you, and the school board or the administration office has to send to the state a copy of the board minutes. Okay? And that's in the school safety legislation. And it does not tell you that it is within the past 5 years. Okay? You'll have those that come to you that will say, well, this happened 30, 40 years ago. That's true. But until legislation changes that allows us to, look at that and go, that happened 20, 30 years ago. Trust me, some of the compliance conferences that I have to have are on 30, 40-year-old convictions. We still have to have them. We still have to make a decision. And, they'll send in a book about what they've done. They learned from that. And you'll have some that'll get angry. Why does this keep coming up? I've had some that they'll spend the $800 and get it off their record. It's a minor misdemeanor, but they don't want it on there. So, that it does happen. But I think that by sharing with you, and these are not the end-all be-all of samples. If in doubt, ask for a register of action. Okay? That gives you all your information. Ask early. Okay? Have a workshop with your students that are just coming into the program. They may be freshmen, they may be non-traditional students that, 35, 45 years ago, this happened. I think back to, almost 20 years now, when MSU, I think it was MSU and one of their championship games, and of course, they were burning couches on, at Cedar Village, because they always do that. And there was this big riot, and the judge was very, very ticked off. And he adjudicated every single one of those cases as a felony. And the thing that stuck out with me was that there was one young lady riding on the shoulders of a gentleman, and she lifted her top. She has a felony conviction, which would have been a civil infraction. But he swiped the whole group of them. So now, unless she's done some, working with an attorney, if she were in K-12 education, she'd have to have a compliance conference, and she'd have to have the superintendent and the school board agree in writing in a public meeting to hire her for something silly while she was in college. So, talk to your students. Let them understand. And most of all, if you don't take anything else from this, beside the court record piece, please tell your students to be honest. I know, you get scared, and it's not just students. It's young students. It's some of the older ones. You sit back, it's 3 or 4 of y'all don't work together for a long time, and it's time to renew your certificates, and they check no because they don't want these others to know they had this DUI. Now we have a problem because you hit submit, and I've already got it in the system. So now it looks like fraud. It looks like you intentionally did this. And you calling and telling me, oh no, it was an accident. Okay, we'll talk to you on this particular date. And they'll ask cert officers, because you're at the university. You ever get that phone call? Well, listen, I know you're in education, but can you answer me this? It has nothing to do with what you're doing, but you're a cert officer. And some of the things you need to understand. Take a minute and go through the statute. Take a minute and re-look at the offenses. Look at the court records. We're pretty flexible. If you've ever sent, documents, we're pretty flexible. And if I can work it and figure it out, I'm not going to put you in the whole pile. Because putting you in the whole pile delays me. Okay? Final thing, if you have someone that is being very ugly and rude about the court records, please give them my number. I have no problem talking with potential teachers. Okay? Only thing that I ask, give me a heads up. Shoot me an email. Don't let me be blindsided. If I have someone that jumps past you, I will tell them, well, you're going to need to speak with your cert officer, and I will shoot you an email. Heads up, this one's rolling back. Okay? That way we're on the same page. And if I'm off, and I should be saying something a little different, but I'm not getting the full picture because they're only going to give me what's favorable to them, I need to hear from you. Okay? And vice versa. I'm going to support you. If it's something, it's like, let me call. And I will call you. Okay? If you have something that's real different, haven't really seen it, and you will eventually, shoot me an email, give me a call. Email is quicker. Stephanie, I got this document. Can you just take a look at it? Okay, but that's not on a regular basis. Okay? And if you email me court records, you'll get a really nice note that says these are the 2 ways we accept court documents. Okay? But if it's one that you've racked your brain and looked, up, down, and both sides and can't figure something, then shoot me that email and say, I've looked at this and looked at this. I think it has what you need, but I'm not sure. Okay? Okay. Well, got a question? Okay. Because right now your folk here are going, really? Go ahead.
So if there is an expungement or set aside or like this example of dismissed by 30, they say no and no, but we still need to send you documents.
I would ship them to me because 3 years from now, they're not going to remember. 5 years. I'm getting apps now that are going, did I send you that? Could you check? No, can't check. So just send the app and we'll, if it pops up, we got them, great. But that way it's on the system. And remember, when I take the flag off, if you put it back, it's back. So, any other questions? All right, thank you for your time this afternoon, and have a safe drive home.
Thank you.